Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is May 5th, 2024, Cinco de Mayo. As you can tell, I'm not at home. I am on the road as part of the Southern Swing. We will talk more about the Southern Swing on some other shows over the coming days. But I have a list of topics that I would like to go through on this rare Sunday edition of the Big Me Kickoff. Sometimes when you are on the road, it requires you to adjust your schedule a little bit, and a lot of driving ahead for us on Monday. So I did not want to get into a position of where I was going to have to deliver a show on a day where I wasn't going to have any time, and the quality would suffer. We know that. I want to thank our friends over at No Naturals, who are a fantastic part of this show, a fantastic sponsor of this show. And without further ado, let's learn a little bit more about No Naturals. Are you ready for an entirely different edible experience? Welcome to No Naturals, where we're shattering the stereotype of one-note, slow-acting gummies. Get waiting over an hour to feel the effects. Our gummies are like a sprinter out of the blocks, fast-acting in just 15 to 30 minutes. Picture this. You're not choosing a flavor, you're choosing your vibe. With 5 core experiences and 6 custom combos, you're in full control. Whether it's energy and focus without the crash, a peaceful slumber that lasts all night, or a game-changing burst of bliss and euphoria, these edibles are the real deal. And the best part, you don't need a doctor's recommendation. No Natural gummies are dispensary quality and discreetly delivered right to your door. So whether you're craving a productivity boost, a good night's sleep, or some blissful euphoria, say hello to No Naturals. Try them today and use code HUDDLE10 for 10% off your order at shop.nonaturals.com. Once again, that's shop.nonaturals.com. You can get all the information in the notes below on the scroll. Be sure to visit our great friends over at No Naturals. But now that we got that taken care of, we are going to talk a little recruiting, but we're not going to talk about anything necessarily on the Southern Swing at this point. One of Ohio State's most important targets in this class is David Sanders, the offensive lineman out of Charlotte, North Carolina, where we happen to be right now as we do this show. And while we head down this way, he heads north to Columbus for an unofficial visit. It wasn't a well-publicized visit. It wasn't until he was discovered on campus that people really knew that he was going to take the visit. And this is his second visit in a couple of months and in advance of a June official visit. So he's going to get the chance to see Columbus 3 times in 2 months. I know I've been one to sell a little bit on Ohio State's chances for David Sanders. And I was talking to a couple of Clemson fans down here on Friday who were cautiously optimistic, but then again, also we're not ready to just say, yeah, he's going to Clemson. If David Sanders has made up his mind, he has a funny way of showing that he's made up his mind if that pick is going to be Clemson by going to Ohio State over and over and over again. Now, I have made the drive from Charlotte to Columbus and back and forth countless times. It is a 6-hour drive. It is not the worst drive in the world. If you take 33 through Southern Ohio, it is kind of the worst drive in the world, as it is 2-lane for a huge stretch, and the speed limit is 55, and it is well patrolled. But I would rather do that than take 77 up into through Marietta and into Cambridge and then pick up 70 there. You save about an hour by taking the other route. But, with that being said, do we now have to really take Ohio State's chances of landing David Sanders seriously? I mean, I think that the conversation is there. I don't think that this visit over this weekend is any sort of absolute tell on his part that he's going to Ohio State. That's not, no. But I'll tell you what, if he wasn't taking these visits, I would say just cross him off the list at this point. So you got to keep an eye on this one. I think this one is very interesting of how it's trending. I'm not making any sort of prediction. I don't have a crystal ball, RPM, Futurecast, whatever. I just, I tell you thumbs up or thumbs down over at BuckeyeHuddle.com. I suggest you check us out over at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That is our day job right there. Running a tremendous promo, $69.99 for a year for new members, past members, current members. Anyway, Annual subscription, $69.99. Check us out at Buckeye Huddle for all the recruiting coverage. Keep an eye out here, too, on youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle for a Skull Session recruiting podcast that will be coming out shortly as well, where we're going to talk a little bit more recruiting. But if you're watching this show, I have a feeling you're a recruiting fan, and you can get a hell of a lot more recruiting coverage on top of this over at BuckeyeHuddle.com. But, so there we stand with David Sanders, and that's big news on its own. I also want to talk about Ohio State welcoming Malik Autry out of Opelika, Alabama, onto campus. He is an Auburn commit, high four-star type of player, top 100 national kind of guy. And we all know that defensive tackle is always a position of need. Even if you feel that you're near full, keep taking guys that you feel that can honestly play defensive tackle. Because so often they're the guys that you move from end and put a little more weight on them and slide them inside. And then on the other side, you've got your true defensive tackle. That's the position they've been playing, and that's what they are. And I'm not saying converted tackles or edges to tackles don't work out, but there's such a finite number of true D tackles coming out of the high school ranks year in and year out that if you can get in on one, you do it. Well, Ohio State feels that it has an opportunity here because Autry left Columbus with an offer. And he was there with Zion Grady, who is out of Enterprise, Alabama. So that raises the question as well. Does Ohio State see an opportunity in the state of Alabama to recruit? And I say that on the heels of the retirement of Nick Saban. And that isn't me being negative of Kalen DeBoer. I think there's just a lot of unknowns in Alabama right now, around Alabama, with what DeBoer is going to look like there. Yes, he had success last year at Washington. He also had a roster that was loaded with a lot of sixth-year talent, fifth and sixth-year talent. They lose a lot of their line. They lose, Michael Penix. They lose their leading receiver. They lose top two receivers. Nothing that happens at Washington really matters now in talking about Alabama. But the point that I'm saying is sometimes your roster, the composition of your roster, the Jimmies and Joes, is going to either make you look great or not great, regardless of who you are as a coach. I mean, yes, you've got to put the right pieces out there at the right times. You have to make the right evaluations. You've got to develop. But if that Washington team is a little younger, if that Washington team does not have Michael Penix Jr., there's a lot of ifs. Is Kalen DeBoer the choice to succeed Nick Saban at Alabama? I mean, obviously Dan Lanning at Oregon was somebody that was mentioned as a potential candidate. There were a lot of potential candidates. There's going to be a lot of revisionist history as well on how to really assess that coaching search went. Was it a case of 4 or 5 guys saying no and that they worked their way down to Kalen DeBoer? That's going to be one argument. On the other side, it's going to be no, DeBoer was always our guy. I think it's going to lie somewhere in the middle. I think that's just generally how discussions and conversations and everything go in that sense. So the point I'm making is Ohio State under Urban Meyer and now under Ryan Day has always done a very good job of identifying when there is a bit of a vacuum in a region to go in and try and recruit. And I'm not taking anything away from Auburn. And we know that recruiting the state of Alabama is something that Georgia does as well, that LSU does, Arkansas does. There are more schools that recruit there more than just Alabama and Auburn. But with Alabama, who's kind of the big dog on the block, not being as shored up, does Ohio State see the opportunity? Is Ohio State emboldened by landing a commitment from Naeem Offord out of Alabama? So you go in and you get maybe the best player in Alabama and Offord, and now you sit there and you go hunting for Malik Autry, for Zion Grady, for Micah DeBose. There is that opportunity. So does this mean that Alabama is suddenly open for business for Ohio State recruiting? And I think for the foreseeable future, the answer is yes. Now, if Alabama goes 11-1 this year and makes it through a couple rounds of the playoffs, maybe that window closes quicker. But we are not seeing a situation of where Alabama and Auburn are splitting 85% of these guys, and then everybody else is fighting for the other 15%. Ohio State traditionally does not recruit Alabama. And it's a case, too, of where if you know there's an area that you're not going to be able to recruit well, you're probably not going to paper it with a lot of offers. Sorry, they're not written offers at this point, verbal offers, whatever. So I think that Ohio State does recognize, I think it's a combination of it's a stronger than usual year in Alabama. And there's always a lot of talent. And I think that when you look at the per capita for NFL players and everything else, there are a lot of states in the Deep South that just do very well, that don't have gigantic populations, but put a lot of guys into the league. So it's not like this is like a once-in-a-lifetime haul out of Alabama for just the state of Alabama, but this could be a once-in-a-lifetime haul for Ohio State in recruiting the state of Alabama if it is able to close on a couple more guys. And we're so early on talking about Autry and Grady and even DeBose at this point, but I, through all the years that I've done this, have not seen Ohio State this aggressive in the state of Alabama. I mean, they have looked around at some guys before, but that's not necessarily been the case. I mean, they've looked in neighboring state like Mississippi, and they don't necessarily crush it there either. So I think that this is just an indication that Ohio State does see a little bit of weakness down there, and is going to try and shoot a shot. I mean, shoot or shoot, and that's what you got to do. There sometimes is this misnomer that you shouldn't, if you're looking to take 30, you shouldn't throw out 330 offers. I mean, you've got to throw out some offers. But Ohio State's hesitancy in the past to recruit Alabama, I think just because they were going to get that volleyball spiked right back into their face by Alabama and to a lesser extent Auburn. So keep an eye on that one, and keep an eye on Southern Swing as we continue to make our way through the South of where we may end up and who we may talk to. I want to wrap up this show a little quickie again, being a Sunday, and everybody I hope is having tacos and tequila right now with it being Cinco de Mayo here on the Big Me Kickoff, brought to you and us, I guess, by our friends at KnowNaturals.com. Be sure to check them out in the show notes and on the scroll below. Use code HUDDLE10 for 10% off your order at shop.knownaturals.com. I'm a big fan of the Rust gummies. That's what I need. I can't turn my brain off at night. Sometimes I can't turn it on during the day. That has nothing to do with gummies. That just has to do with me. But sometimes I need those Rust gummies to be able to get to sleep. I took one last night, late in the third period of the hockey game, and then it goes to overtime, and I'm super concerned that I'm going to fall asleep during it. And fortunately, the Bruins pulled it out early in overtime, and I was asleep within 15 minutes after that. So there you go. But I want to wrap this up talking a little bit about basketball. And Ohio State now is sitting with 12 scholarship players with an allotment of 13. So they have one more to go, picking up Sean Stewart, their second player, formerly of Duke, joining Aaron Bradshaw. And I think the Sean Stewart pickup is huge. I kind of joke because Felix Okpara, he leaves after the Aaron Bradshaw, and I've been assured that it is not a direct cause and effect type of thing on that. But how would he feel now with another big, potentially cutting into his minutes? And I'm not saying that to be derogatory toward Felix. Felix is a great kid. I'm just saying that imagine that front court if it would have been Okpara and Bradshaw and Stewart all in some sort of rotation. That would have been something. I think Ohio State needs to look again at another wing type of player, somebody who maybe has more of a body of a 4 and plays a little bit more like a 3. I think Ohio State still needs to find another shooter, and the game has changed in a lot of ways. We talk about, it's a positionless game, and you have point forwards now instead of necessarily point guards, and you have to be able to do a lot of things. So I think that Ohio State can go out there and find somebody who's kind of a combo 3-4 who can fill it up. Now everybody else is looking for that too, so I don't necessarily know. And I've seen names kind of all over the place as I mean, the portal is closed for people entering it, but there's still a lot of people living in the portal. And I think Ohio State is really doing its due diligence at this point to figure out where it wants to go from there. But I'm really looking forward to the upcoming 2024-25 season. Going to need a roster because it is a new team. I mean, obviously you have Bruce Thornton and some of the other known quantities, but a lot of guys have left. This roster has turned over. If you go over to the university official page, there are more Ohio State logos than photos on the basketball roster at this point, as they've not had photo day to fill all of that in. As for the schedule of the shows this week, I don't know. I really don't know what we're going to do. This counts as one for this week, though. I'm starting the week on Sunday, so I'm going to give you at least two more. We're going to be, making our way through the South, as I said, here on Southern Swing. We had the nice opportunity to start the trip in Charlotte and stay at the same hotel for multiple nights. And that's because the weekend falls in the middle, and there just really wasn't much that we could do over the weekend. But it gave us a head start to where we were able to go out and get players on Thursday and Friday. And then we've got interviews lined up for Monday, so keep it locked in here. I'm not going to go into who we're talking to at this point. Maybe Mark will spill that on Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, but I'm not going to. But we've already got 5 interviews already done. We got 4 done between Weddington High School and Grimsley outside of Greensboro. And then, of course, we got Deron Parks out of Hurricane, West Virginia. So a nice start there. We've had a nice mixture of guys in the trench. Parks being on the offensive line, the Harris brothers being on the defensive line, Thomas Davis Jr. being a linebacker. And then, of course, we had number 1 prospect of 2026, according to one of the services, quarterback out of Greensboro. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up here on Southern Swing, working on a real special Hungry Huddle that I will post at the end of the run of this trip. So don't look for it tomorrow. Maybe we'll find a one-off Hungry Huddle to do as well during the show, but I've got a bigger idea, bigger picture one that I need to get through the entire trip and might need a day in the edit suite to be able to put it together the way that I want to. But that's all coming here in the coming weeks here on BuckeyeHuddle.com. But once again, check us out, $69.99, no coupon code needed, annual subscriptions for current members, for past members, for new members. We have so many people who watch us here on youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. It would mean the world to us if you checked us out on the website. Take advantage of this tremendous sale. This is the first sale that we've had in 2 years of existence of the site. We do not do them that often, but we want to bring everybody in during Southern Swing. We want to bring everybody in during this exciting time, during the May evaluation period. And before you know it, we'll be into June camps, and then we'll be like in July, and suddenly it'll be Big Ten Media Days. So much going on here. It may be nice outside. It may be vacation time for a lot of people, but we're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, maybe 364. I don't know, give or take. I generally try to stay busy. But until next time, I want to thank everybody for watching us here on the Big Me Kickoff. Talk to you very soon.